welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We ask, in what ways can we show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can we mine the wisdom from the experiences of our lives and expand into those challenges? If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs, so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. And if you feel like giving a little back to this free content, please become a patron of the show and receive extra member benefits for less than a coffee a month. Or you can leave a review on iTunes and Facebook, all of which helps the podcast keep going and reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul. Head on over to patreon.com/NTM podcast to find out more. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is Your Self-Confident Kid. And it comes off of the back that you and I were talking about what would be the most valuable thing we could gift mothers out into the ether, into the world for January. And you and I both said our transitions toolkit was by far one of the most profound offerings that we ever put out, and was so profoundly impactful for a number of families. Only second, or really close just behind it, is the Serenity Now Toolkit, because the feedback we got back on that, and we just ran
and we still are, and it's still selling, and it's still
December
amazing.
Is freaking amazing, because you and I were like, okay, how do we make this 15 minutes so that you can literally get these tools super succinct rather than these big etheric conversations, and just do the thing now that's going to literally transform triggered states, emotional responses, and therefore the reality or environment,
and to see, and to see the bigger picture that we so often miss.
Profound. Like the amount of comments that we have had back of women like, I literally just transformed. I walked out of my room, listened to you, walked back into the room, and saw a completely different reality. And I was like, oh my God, my heart is singing.
And someone else said, thanks to your Serenity Now Toolkit, I found a new level of spaciousness and acceptance, which meant more connection and enjoyment. And it felt like my most present Christmas since having kids.
Holy shit.
The in-laws section was where it was at for me, which is where it was at for a lot of people. And in fact,
is, isn't it?
And like for me, because I had my in-laws stay for a week.
You did, and I stayed with my in-laws for a week.
Yeah. So in many ways, well, like anything, you teach what you're practicing and what you're embodying and what you're constantly asking yourself to grow into. And that's absolutely true for both of us, because we both had really profound experiences.
Yeah, we really
that I don't know that we would have got the depth of had we also not been in that creation and dissemination mode.
Both cultivated such enormous felt feelings of connection with our mother-in-laws that they both cried for us. They cried for us.
I helped my mother-in-law unlock stories, like 35-year-old stories still held in her body.
Fucking unbelievable, right? Wisdom is not based on years.
No. It's based on willingness to tap in often, I think.
So amazing.
So these two are the
anyway,
centerpiece.
Sorry, I just digressed as I'm feeling into that heart opening of like how literally life transforming that is.
Yeah.
Like just literally life changing.
Well, I mean, in my case, I also saw it as, when we can dive into this stuff and notice the energetic capacity that we have to hold more and to be with more, we become, like you so often say, medicine. And so I saw myself as medicine beyond my family and into my family's
100%.
Stories, like repatterning my mother-in-law's story of Christmas, which for her was heartbreaking. So, and giving her a new felt experience, like what a gift that is. And then like it becomes this beautiful energetic cycle of like everybody feeds off that. Everybody feels good off that.
Of course they do. And in the quantum field, there is no past or present or future, like just to take that another level.
Yeah, that's right.
So in that moment where you're saying, I will be the medicine for this particular lineage pattern, it's like you're literally reaching into the DNA fibers of the universe through that bloodline and opening that veil, or that, you know, I kind of think of it like the veil of a yoni, you know, like it just kind of opens and you just kind of slipped your hand through into that quantum field and you go, I'm ready to change that.
Yeah.
And literally instantaneously, you have just transformed all of your past, because it's all happening at once in the quantum field. There is no past or present or future, all at once.
Which sounds so esoteric when we think about it. But it's true, right?
So this is how, though, instantaneously you can heal generations back and forwards, because you literally say in this moment, the Matrix, right? Yeah. When he all of a sudden can see the encoding and he's able to
he penetrate it. Like he then gets to rewrite it.
Exactly.
I love that. That movie, can I just say, is like the entry point for all of these conversations with my husband, because it's his favourite movie of all time. So we have all of these amazing conversations based on the Matrix.
That's not random.
No, I know.
I love that you and him are sitting there just loving on the Matrix. It's fantastic. But I was going to say, you and I should sit down and have a movie night together and just
unpack the Matrix.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Me too.
Yeah, and like pause it and go.
What if we could even live stream it in Soul Driven Motherhood?
That'd be so good.
And we could all have a movie, like a watch party. I haven't done a watch party, but I keep seeing them pop up and I'm like, that looks really fun.
We could do the Matrix.
What is a watch party? Do you know?
No, but let's give it a go. The Matrix watch party coming to Soul Driven Motherhood soon.
I'm serious. Let's do it.
I really want to do it. Let's do it.
We should do it as part of Amplify.
Okay.
Because part of manifesting, right? Because you can change in the moment.
Yeah.
Like actually really sinking into how profound your ability to manifest and be a beacon of manifestation is.
Yeah.
When you're able to enter that coded space. Don't you think?
Let's do it. And we're doing it as part of Amplify. There we go. We've just started building
We'll work out the watch party thing later.
We will. So, but we'll tell you about Amplify later, because right now we're talking about...
I know, we've totally got off track.
We have.
But you're self-complicated. Anyway, so that's how we came to putting together what we think is it's Transitions Toolkit, Serenity Now, and then it's 4 quick reference guides. So it's 6 things in total in this bundle that we've put together, and it's seriously only $88. And we literally think this will literally transform how you enter transitional spaces, phases, times, which transition really is just an experience of I'm struggling in moving from one space, place, time or emotion to the other.
Yeah.
So we had one question on Instagram, I think that was, you know, well, my child's 2, what age do you think you start doing this? And I'm like, literally from the beginning.
Well, I mean, because I think the more that you make them comfortable with transitions, the more, you know, with the simple transitions, the more that they stack and then they become more ease for the bigger transitions, essentially. It's not something that...
Yes, but really the main focus point that we have on this as transitions is this is not stuff you do to your kids.
Yeah.
This is stuff that opens up avenues and spaces within you that allows you to be the pathway for your children. You can't do it to them and go, now follow the path, Hansel and Gretel, without the breadcrumbs. Right?
Yeah. And the Transition Toolkit is a beautiful example of working with your child, but also doing your work, because it is your work. And any block that you have towards whatever leap you're asking your child to make will show up in your child, because they are your mirror reflection of where you're yet to take yourself.
That's why they push our buttons, because they literally are designed to do that.
But that kit, because we put that together when I was all of a sudden sending my child to
transitions.
Into school, and like the stuff that's in there is a gold in terms of how that helped me get him out the door on the mornings that he was resistant to go, on how I worked with him through play, on how I worked with myself and all of my like emotions about it. Like, because I know a bunch of my friends have got kids going into prep next year, this year coming. And I just wish I could say, like, I do say to them, get this, because it's a medicine essentially for yourself and for them, in terms of knowing what to look for, knowing what to lean into, how to help them find safety on the playground.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's stacked with all of my just mum knowledge.
And Julie's like, because I was like fresh green, it never, never been to school kind of mum, going, what about the playground? And they're like, out there in this playground with kids of like all of these different ages. teachers.
And the kinder teacher's not there anymore. Yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And so over the course of having done that already with 2 children, I was like, well, here's how I set my kids up for success is because they only struggle when they don't know what to do and they don't have tools in the situation that they find themselves in. So as much as is possible, I set them up with, here's a variety of responses and you stack these, but at the beginning of school, here's the things that are really likely to happen. If you find yourself here, here's your options, because then it means they're not resourceless and having to resort to behaviours that have other ramifications for them and so much.
Yeah.
So it's kind of stacked with all my mum knowledge, even just like basic stuff on lunchboxes and bloomers and like it's actually just super, this is how my kids have succeeded so well in school. And I do think that it stacks on that. You know, my daughter, both my kids have been school captains. My daughter just finished grade 6 and we had people over for Christmas and they were like, holy shit, there's so many awards on your fridge. And I was like, my kids have kind of worked out how to be successful. Yeah. Simply by virtue of being successfully them. Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that is largely based on them never having, not never, but not as much frequency as I think other kids find themselves in is in the struggle street. Because I work really hard on setting them up as much as is possible. I let them do the work. I'm not doing it for them. No. But I'm setting them up and saying, here's life that you might find yourself in. Here's the best of my knowledge. Here's your options. You choose, you do whatever you need to do. And we'll be with whatever happens out of that because that's cool. You don't even have to pick them.
And I love that because that also speaks to the mothers who are like, oh, but rules and control, which is me, you know, like the rules and the controls of school and like, you know, the kind of making them conform. The gift in that is actually that you present to them, this is what it looks like. This is how you can work within it. This is how you can succeed in it. Yeah. And this is where we get to, you know, push the edges. And this is kind of where we don't. And what do you want to do with that? And that gives them agency, even when it feels like they might not have any. Totally. And you're also looking for, you know, behaviours that give you a red flag to see that they struggled today. Yeah. How do I work with that? Yeah. How do I keep bringing them back into their own sovereignty and their own choice?
Because that is the self-confident kid.
Knowing that they can work with whatever they're presented. Yeah.
I really detest the modern age version of confidence.
Tell me about that.
I actually really detest the affirmations and the mantras. I am kind. I am beautiful.
Yeah. I am loved. Or zip on your confidence suit kind of.
Oh, I'm just like, fuck, you've missed it. You've missed what it is to be a whole soul and you've missed the opportunity to teach, I don't need my world to be different because I can handle it. You miss it. That is confidence because it is based on a deep and sturdy sense of self-worth. I've got it.
You don't expect the world to maneuver and move with you in order for you to be confident. That you can be.
That mum needs to fix my world for me.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a really big one, unfortunately, I think, you know. Yeah. Like you didn't get the teacher that you wanted, or there's a kid bullying, or there's, you know, how can I like maneuver everything around my child so that my child doesn't get too uncomfortable?
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a space and a place for affirmations. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if that's your version of confidence, you've missed the bucket.
Because you haven't seen the richness in the shadow.
Nope. And you have missed the opportunities to lead by embodiment. I don't need to zip on a confidence suit to feel good in the world. I don't need protection from the world to feel good. Yeah. Because in actual fact, I am free-flowing love and so is the world. And how can I open further to that rather than create more and more boundary, distance, closure and tension from it? Like you fucking missed it.
I love this.
I could go forever.
I love
Can
this.
you tell
I
I'm
love
like,
it. I love it.
That's not actually the conversation we're going to have here.
But you're essentially saying that anything you are resistant to in the world is what you are resistant to in yourself. So let's expand the self So you don't need to maneuver and shift and change the world to fit you.
Yeah, and just a total sense of whatever this is, I've got it. It might be hard. It might be scary. It might be really uncomfortable internally, but I have learned a skill set where I have the capacity to move with, be with, stay here, and work it out for myself. That is confidence.
And that, I mean, as a parent, that can be excruciating because then you're actually asking yourself to sit with the pain, right?
Like to watch it rather than fix it.
You're not fixing it. You're not changing it.
Exactly.
You're widening the tolerance to be with it.
Yeah. And in actual fact, you know, as I've done more and more, well, self-work and certainly then work on the masculine and really healing the stories that I have around the masculine and really witnessing the evolution of or really embracing the evolution of the king archetype because, as you know, I'm running Queen School, so I've been really spending a lot of time. And certainly with my son, I mean, as you know, last year I did it was this year actually because he turned 13, did like a rites of passage. So it's been a really like last couple of years really kind of immersing in what does this new divine masculine look like outside of, actually we're at a family gathering and my husband's, anyway, a member of the family was sending their kids to school, to high school next year. And I said, oh, what school are you going to? And she said, such and such a school. It's an all-boys school, but they really champion boys being gentle and kind. And I was like, well, fuck.
What's that going to look like?
So I just smiled and went,
okay.
That's nice.
So I know what you mean when you say
sorry,
that.
I haven't filled in any blanks.
Can you break that down?
I think this is a completely different conversation.
It is, but just have it because everyone's waiting now.
We were designed to have. Well, what I love about watching the masculine now and that I judged for such and emasculated for such a long time was just this absolute beauty in the masculine's ability to watch struggle and see strength. Whereas I think the feminine watches struggle and struggles. So I adore that the masculine rises through challenge. The feminine rises through praise.
Yeah.
So what are you rising? The masculine or the feminine?
Well, and again, I mean, because this is the problem we're finding at the moment now is that in order to get away from the fear of toxic, what we would label toxic masculinity, we're now trying to grow more feminine traits in men and disown masculine traits, which is what this gentle and kind focus is a reflection of. Yes. But in doing so,
it breaks my heart actually now. I feel like it's such a disempowerment to this universe.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because what gets buried and repressed comes out and explodes.
Yeah. Like Donald Trump.
Yeah. The collective repression we now have as a president of the United States. So, yes, the masculine.
Yeah, I know you've lost your train of thought because we have gone totally
gone off track, but you know,
so
it's a new year, it's a transition time.
It is a transition time. But I guess what I was looking at there was when we're talking about parenting from the sidelines versus sweeping the path clear for them, is it is incredibly difficult, particularly if you're a feminine core, really conscious parent, to watch your child's pain and not be so consumed by that dysregulation that you're swept into it and you're now crushing in pain. But now you're in an adult body, you can fix it. You don't have to feel the pain, which is never the point. So I was more just, I really learned a lot from watching the masculine with more curiosity over the last couple of years, and then really stepping back a little bit and watching how my husband then steps up in that space with him, and how when I'm not the one leading and deciding what that masculine journey should look like, because it's very filtered, my version, that in actual fact, guess what happens? Just the most divine beauty and archetypal experience.
I actually have loved watching that. My son's 6, nearly 7, and the shift in him, I mean, in many ways you wouldn't recognise him now. Like, he's just a different kid in so many ways. And it's that rising, it's that stepping into the masculine and into that desire to be more in his body and more in the world and more of a provider and more of a leader. And seeing now, like, what I would have judged as, oh no, sport this and boys that, and seeing how much he thrives in this environment, you know, and in these dynamics with his dad that, you know, Conjur's parent me in the past would have judged, but now I'm just looking at with enormous curiosity and love very often, because I can just see this perfection. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's really amazing. But I think there's such a lesson for us to be learnt in terms of allowing struggle, because you see, like, he knows he's going to get through it. You know, like, I think about the experience we chose for my son's rite of passage was a deep sea fishing experience, and my husband had sent me a video, and I'm like, this is like fucking epic, right? So it's a choppy sea, it's raining, the boat's kind of, you know, like sloshing side to side. They don't have any harnesses on, you know. I'm not going to lie, I freaked out a little bit. They've got these enormous deep sea rods. My son's pulling in this enormous tuna, and all of the men around him are just like, what's going on over there? Yep, you got it. Cool. Turn back. And I'm watching this video going, fucking fuck, don't go over the edge. You know, and the struggle and the strain. But not at one point did any of those men think, oh, you poor baby, you're not going to manage.
Yes.
I'll help you. I'll do it for you. They all looked at him and went, go. You got it.
So much permission in
that.
Know,
but it's the design of the masculine to grow esteem through esteemable acts, to know that you can be the knight in shining armor because you have had experiences where you've proved it to yourself. And that is guided by a group of profound men. Like, it's just
and sometimes, I mean, because I was talking to my husband, we were talking about, you know, the ocean, and he grew up in the ocean, so they lived
because he's a surfer, isn't he?
Yeah, so him and his two brothers, their mum was often working, and so they would just be at the surf beach. Like, this is not patrolled, pretty dangerous, and their rite of passage was the waves in the ocean. And when he talks about it, I'm like, like, this is what built you. This is what has taught you what you can hold and what you can meet, because the ferociousness of the waves and the feminine, you know, and how to move with that and find your edges, and even in how there was a camaraderie and a like a brotherhood in the ocean, but there was also an enormous amount of like one-upmanship and like this need to kind of see how you can,
because that's how the masculine grows.
And like, if I didn't understand that,
if they just sat there praising each other, they wouldn't be able to ride a wave.
No.
Because their feminine would just be all lost in the ocean.
Yeah, that's so true. Whereas this was, it's developed like a mastery, and through this incredible, like, I think I love it. I love the capacity for us to then see, wow, how is that shaping you, and where is the richness
there? He has to take your kids surfing.
Yeah.
You like have to make that a thing.
Yeah. I think it'd be really nice. Yeah. I mean, when I was thinking about you being down the beach, I'm like, I was talking to him about the waves.
Because we were on the back beach.
Because I love that feeling of being like
so
smashed
good,
by
being
a wave.
pounded. I do. I love it too. I love it too. And I love the respect that I see men have for the ocean.
And how's that like a metaphor, right? Like,
right. It's exactly my point. Like, that's the relationship I would like to see in the world. I recognize your power, your purpose. I love it. And I love your sensation. And you are love for me. And I want to be in you. And I want to do the best that I can to protect you. And, you know, like, it's
a sacred masculine, you know, epitomized through the relationship between man and the ocean.
Right.
The surfer and the ocean.
That's exactly my point.
I love it.
And then yesterday we had dolphins, this pod of dolphins that just went past. I was like, oh my God, this is like just a gift from Mother Earth.
It's perfection.
I know.
But bringing it back,
I know, we are like nowhere near.
Bringing it right back. You talked a little bit here about, you know, meeting challenge and seeing, you know, the transition that we're being called into as something to grow into. And therefore, you know, how is this functional? How is the edges that our kids are being taken to in their transitions really functional for them?
Yeah. And how does this build rather than deplete?
Yeah. And therefore, if we consider that what they're facing isn't something that is an accident or isn't something that's
how is this opportunity rather than obstruction?
Yeah.
That's a good saying. I know I'm about to write it down.
Opportunity rather than obstruction. So therefore, how can you help your child work with that? And it's not about, oh, you know, they're off to school now, like, you know, like wipe your hands clean. Okay, well, you know, what's going to be will be. It's about how do I help them move in this environment? How do I help them work with the challenges that they might face here? How do I help them ground in themselves and feel anchored in this new place and space that they're being asked to grow into? That's what the Transitions Toolkit does.
Yeah.
And in yourself too. I can still remember like sitting here in your place, like crying, going, I can't believe I'm going to send him to school.
Yeah,
you know,
that was a really hard space.
It was me having to work through all that was in the way for me.
Yeah.
Because
you really toyed with so many alternative versions of education.
I really did. Yeah. I really did. Yeah. It's been kind of painful.
And still do. Like,
and I still do. Yeah. There's parts of me that, you know, and like when my son says, can we just homeschool? I just want to like do my writing with you and then I can play with Sylvie. And like, and it's like he speaks to my like part of me that goes, oh yes, okay, it sounds so lovely. And then I'm going, no, I can't do that. So yeah, I can see it still plays out for me, you know, that aspect. But I also see the richness in school and I see the beautiful, you know, role models, and I love how he gets to compete. He loves competition and school. Like, school's built around that stuff. And he loves it. So, yeah. So that's a digression. But Transitions Toolkit.
Okay, let's just take it off of this stuff. Let's just forget this is on the page in front of us. What does building a self-confident kid mean to you? And while you do that, I'm going to have to blow my nose because I'm still congested as fuck.
For me, it means that they've got themselves and that they know themselves and that they know that they have all they need to move in the world so that there's not so much in the way of them showing up to the world, you know, because I think that there's, even as adults, we can get so in the way of ourselves. And what if we could anchor our kids in a confidence that meant that, yeah, they're going to have doubts and yeah, they're going to have edges that they have to grow through, but fundamentally who they are is solid. They have a solidness about themselves that's unchanging, I think. I don't know. I mean, for me, confidence means so many things. It means I'm not going to transform to be what you want me to be. You know, it means that my voice matters. It means that I don't need to morph or be some kind of chameleon based on the environment I find myself in, because who I am is okay and enough. That's what I want.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And so that's, I guess, the edges that I struggle with school as a system.
Yeah, I get it. I really get it.
And so, but then I also see that as opening up beautiful conversations, and it does all of the time. Yeah.
I must admit, this year I've ebbed and flowed. I've always been like, pro-school, school's amazing. But this year with my third, I had a struggle year with her. Yeah. With the system, which I think was perfect because I think I was too infatuated with the system. So this is the perfect counterbalance.
Because you love a system.
Because I do love a system.
And I guess it's a system.
And I've had a really beautiful experience
really well.
for my first two kids. Yeah. It's worked beautifully for them. But with number 3, it's a totally different ballgame. So I'm struggling with the system. Yeah. You know, and I think that's perfect because I think I was too infatuated with school and the school community. And I think I actually needed to separate myself in order to be able to expand because I wasn't doing it on my own. I was just integrating further and further and morphing. And, you know, the more you spend time with people, you become them, right? Like it's that top 5 thing. So I can totally actually see how this is a perfect co-creation. I don't think that this is just the system or just my child or, you know, I'm really putting myself in there and going, I totally see how this works for me. Like I totally see.
Well, I can totally see it because it's given you, like, by not being connected and
I've pushed it away. I'm like, fine. If I can do that shit on your own, then I'm out.
But now you've got your own space to work on your business, which you wouldn't have had if you were there all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. And come back to some pretty core values of mine that don't just get kind of mitigated within a system. You know, like so perfect.
So I also love that question, which then leads to so many of the work that we do, which is like, you know, what are the benefits that you're getting out of
the challenge
right now, or even the perception of it being a particular way? Yeah. Because very likely
everything is a co-creation.
When it plugs into every other kind of, like, you know, insert appropriate belief system here, you know, like everything else, right? Or paves the way or creates spaciousness for the next thing to come in.
Totally. Totally. So more, I guess I was saying that, you know, it has been a tricky year with the system, but all of these tools I still come back to. I still don't run to the system to fix it. I ask the system to meet me in poignant places that are movable and potent. But I can also see that a system only overpowers an individual when the individual needs empowering.
Yeah.
And
we need to say that again, because that's pretty profound.
A system, person, authority only overpowers someone when that person needs to find their power. And for my third, that's, I think, unfortunately, because it's so fucking hard, I think that's her life journey. You know, she was, I still don't know. If you've listened for a long time, you know my third is like blows me out of the water continuously. She's my super tricky child. So I constantly have to find new ways of moving with her that I simply don't have to with the other three. So, you know, I do think there was a lot of, I don't know, I think you can look back and judge something though, can't you? Because I look back at the experience I had with her and I met her with aware parenting in every way that was humanly possible because I was like mad aware parenter. So from day one, she was aware parented and totally and utterly aware parented. And, you know, as a baby had an amazing experience until, you know, I have this soul who has additional needs beyond, if I just hold bandwidth, emotions will fix everything. It turns out it's more intricate and profound than that. So we've totally digressed again. I look at her experiences of struggle and I can see beyond her hurt and story because it would be so easy for me to, and I do, have to find myself sucked into it and like, oh God, you poor thing. That's just like, I'll just fix a little bit for you because it's just too much for a little person. And, you know, oh, fuck, you know, if I could just smooth this, this would be better. And if you were more like that, then she would be better. And, you know, if you just weren't so nasty, this thing would work better for me. You know,
totally.
You know, if all you people just fixed yourselves, then little Lola would be fine. Which, of course, is completely flawed thinking. Like, I know that.
And also, I mean, that's not the adult you want to set her up to be either, right?
No, but it's a really tough journey.
I get it. Well, I don't really, but I empathise.
It's every day. So I look at these scenarios going, okay, we've got more empowering work to do here because you still defer your power with the perception that other people have it and you don't. So these are still tools that I continue to work with her because I just think she has no doubt a genius that I don't know what the culmination is going to be, but it will be something to do with social and emotional development and relationships. Like all of her imaginative play is about relationships. And here she is just working all of the shadow of relationships out. Like as if that's not going to turn in. Like I know it's going to turn into something.
It's just really hard to parent.
It's just really fucking hard to parent. You know, like, the lover is a wounded open heart. You know, think of the greatest poets in our lifetime. I bet they were really hard to live with. You know? So, yeah, we digress. What do I think confidence is? I think we're nearly done. But I think confidence is the ability to have a foot in your own camp of regulation regardless of the dysregulation you find around yourself. And that by doing that, you are able to consciously choose to open your body and let your light shine in any of those places and spaces and make honourable choices in those moments. Not choices out of fear, closedness, contraction, shame. I think largely they're the root of the problems I see with everyone with relationship and sexual dysfunction. So I think if I can help my kids learn intimacy really well, then they've got this world nailed because everything is just a reflection of intimacy. Everything. That's why parenting teaches us, I think, everything about the world that we ever need to know to empower ourselves in business and finances and social life. Like, pick your area of life. It all comes down to intimacy and the places that you stop.
I just love that.
And close, but it's the truth. You know, there's no amount of confidence zips and business coaches that are going to sort your shit out if your intimacy is fucked. No, fucked's a bit hard.
But if there's places you're unwilling to go.
Yeah.
Because the reality is anywhere that you're unwilling to go in your life will show up in your business.
Everywhere.
And everywhere. Like vice versa.
Everything's a fractal.
So you work yourself out and you then work your world out.
Yeah. And I think that's at the crux of confidence, is if you can be the youest you from a space of not morphing into what you want to see, mum, but a space of I can separate and be celebrated in my separateness. If I can move with that dance as best as my humanness can do, because of course I'm flawed.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, and this is one of my kind of, I guess, one of my many parenting goals, you know, I will allow you as much freedom as I can humanly tolerate, you know, like freedom to be you as much as I can tolerate. And what that looks like in a moment can shift and change, but that is still my goal.
Yeah.
Because in giving you freedom, I give you permission to be you. There's
another one that you always say that I always kind of play in my head too. Hang on, it just slipped out of my head. Oh, damn it.
Begin with yes. Was it begin with yes? No.
No, what were we just saying? What was the permission to be? What did you just say before?
About giving yourself.
We've both lost it.
I don't know. Hopefully our listeners are familiar.
Damn it. No,
I don't know what it is.
It slipped out of my head. God, it doesn't matter. I'm not supposed to be here. So, yeah, I just think all of this that we teach that comes through the self-work means you become the channel. And that's, I think, what I want to be. I want to be the energetic channel, the channel my kids can flow through and with and plug into. And that I can be here just to open up different channels for them that they can't see. And I think that's, you know, that's
and that's also, you know, the work really, isn't it? Is that we parent with our energy.
Yeah.
And so the more that we can know what fuels us, and
as you and I say all the time, feed your kids a wholesome diet of energy.
Yeah. Which makes it then fundamental that we constantly talk about nourishing the mother, because you need to know what nourishes you.
Yeah.
And keep coming back to that.
And how you in turn become the beacon that nourishes those around you, that becomes the gateway for the things that are tricky and sticky. Like,
because you create more capacity for them and you to meet those sticky places.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love the permission that you give to be you, and I always think in your head, in my head, I always hear you can't see it all. I think we can see it all, and I often now, because you and I did you did kind of a session, like a transmutation session with me. It happened to be live in Soul Driven Mother, just because I said I don't care, that's fine. This is a really intimate community. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that came through from you was you can't see it all, Julie. But that had never occurred to me before.
What do you mean?
I was pretty sure I could see everything.
I got this.
This has to be like this because this is the outcome.
Yeah.
Which I know is ridiculous because that's not what I say. But when we are in our own story and projected movie screen, we think our higher mind's going to come online, but it really doesn't.
No. It's pure lower-minded reactionary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just you in that moment, I must have been perfectly open and just that one channel from you that was like, you cannot see it all, Julie. And it was like in my body and I was like, fuck, of course I can't. Who am I to think I can?
And that's also why I think, you know, we need to be really curious about the way our partner parents and the edges that they get taken to, because remember, we both can't see it all. So actually you can see more by talking about what you see together, you know, and working together with the edges that come up.
And with humility, not with ego and hurt love stories from your past.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We are going to wrap up this podcast.
We are.
And
because or else we'd just ramble forever.
We would, because it's been one of those kinds of podcasts. So thank you for staying with us.
I was going to say, hello, Gina, Erica and Jess.
We've got some lovely peeps watching us in our NTM Patron Sick More group. So this is the patrons who sign up with the $8 a month Patreon membership.
So they get pre-release and live records of the podcast.
Yeah.
And all of the rambling that happens before and afterwards.
And extra bits that we sometimes forget to say in the podcast.
Particularly if you're a visual learner, I think it's a good medium.
It is. So to connect with you, Jules,
is thepleasurenutritionist.com.
And me at suburbansandcastles.com. To connect with us, it's nourishingthemother.com.au. And please do consider jumping on the Self-Confident Kid bundle.
Yeah, it's only available until January 5.
Yep.
That's it. We're only running it for a week, basically, and then done, pulling it apart again, and then it ends up you can't get
all those resources.
You can't get them all together, and they are all priced individually. So
they are, and in fact, some of the quick references are locked down into other groups, so they're not even going to be there at all.
Yeah.
So now's the time to get on it if you really want to kick off your year from a place of encouragement.
I think have a complete toolkit up your sleeve.
Yeah.
Where you could just bang, I just need a quick hit here. I need to do this. This thing has come up. Here's how I'm going to set them off.
Yeah.
I just think it's a toolkit that'll last you all year.
Me too. So remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey. And if you want to support Nourishing the Mother and all the late nights, the early mornings, the blood, sweat and tears we pour into our art, then please go to patreon.com/NTM podcast and become our patron. As a patron, you're helping all of the cost of operating this podcast, the hosting, the editing, the transcription, helping all of that be completely covered, and joining a community who are all about honouring our journeys and continuing to open. The more support we have, the longer we can last. So become a patron. We'd love to have you. Go to patreon.com/NTM podcast. We literally couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for listening, and please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.